Hi, everybody. Getting set up over here. Hope everybody's having a good day. Don't worry, I'm going to turn the music down in a second. I don't want to overwhelm anybody. Just setting the tone. Hi, Marshmallow Opossum. Is it just possum? I don't know. Okay, will you give me a thumbs up if you can hear my voice? Can you do a thumbs up in the chat? I don't know. So I'm going to... Just going to give everybody just a second. Okay. Mikey boy. Okay, I'm going to turn the song off. Give me just a second. Hi, everybody. Okay, so can you hear me? My voice coming through? I see. Okay. So this is the first time that I'm actually using streaming software. Ooh, key change. This one's for you, Mikey boy. Okay, one more minute to get everybody here. Hello, everybody. So let's start with some introductions. So what's your name and where are you from? If you're comfortable sharing. Put it over here. What is the most stressful part of the holiday season? Okay. Oh, we'll start whenever this song ends. We'll give everybody a chance to get here. Hi, Kristen from Michigan. Thanks, Whitney. I got this top. So I used to be a youth pastor, like back in the day in another life. And this is one of the things I kept whenever we left because I love it. I found it at a thrift store. And I wear it every Christmas. I thought it would be fitting for our time together today. Hello, everyone. Hi, Zebulon from Colorado. Hi, Zinzi from New Hampshire. Hi, Daphne and Sonia. Hi, Gemma. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Phil. All right, so I'm so glad everybody's here. Mikey Boy says Christmas church dinners are quite hard to deal with. Yes. Hi, Smoo from Netherlands. Family is the biggest stress. Hi, Luna. Well, this is great. So welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you're here for the live stream. I'm using streaming software for the first time, which just means I don't even know if anybody cares about that, but I had to do a lot of research to figure out how to do it. So bear with me. I think I've got everything figured out, but all the support here is awesome. So what I wanted to do today, if you haven't heard, I started these online groups called Autistic Community Groups. I've gotten to meet so many of you through them, but there's a lot of you who are unable to make them if it's cost concern or scheduling or whatever. Some of you are unsure of what they are and how they work. So as a gift, I wanted to give you the Holidays on the Spectrum community group topic presentation. So, excuse me, so that you can understand what community groups are, how they work. I also wanted to help us navigate holidays on the spectrum because they do tend to be a little bit more stressful for us. We'll talk about why in a few minutes. So many of you have asked if I would do the Holidays on the Spectrum group again, and rather than hosting another one, I just figured I would offer it for free here on YouTube. So I'm very glad you're here. And what we'll do is I'll just kind of walk you through this presentation that I made to help us learn how to navigate holidays on the spectrum. And there'll be discussion questions throughout so that you can respond and kind of connect to other people in the chat that's happening on the side. And I'll try to check in with the comments occasionally to kind of introduce some of those ideas in the conversation. So if this was an autistic community group, what would happen is we meet through Google Meet. And the first part of our session is getting to know each other, which is always really great because part of the greatness of community groups is getting to know other people's experiences and learning that you're really not alone in how you experience life on the spectrum. There's so many other people out there who not only experience things like you, but they look like you, right? Autism doesn't have a certain look, like we're all humans, but getting to interact with other people who operate in very similar ways is very, very healing. So that's what we do at the beginning of the session. We go around, and if anybody would like to turn their camera off, that's fine. You can only, if you want to only participate in the text chat, that's also fine too. Or if you just want to be a fly on the wall and not participate at all, just listen. That's totally fine. So it's important to me in the community groups that you're able to participate in any way that feels comfortable to you. So that's what we do first. And then we usually move into a presentation over a specific topic. So some of those topics have been, one that I've got coming up is autistic inertia and demand avoidance. It's been one of the most popular topics. Masking, meltdowns, the adult autism diagnostic process. So each group has had a different topic, and I teach a little bit about that, and then we talk about it together to process. Some things that we have coming up for 2023 are more discussion-based groups. So what tends to happen is I make slideshows with a whole lot of information because I like teaching and I like sharing all of the information that I have because I just want to share as much as I can with you. But what that ends up doing is leaving less time for discussion and connection. So what we have coming up next year is going to be more discussion-based groups that are thematic. So let's say one group might be for parents on the spectrum, and we meet at a regular time, like for example, Thursdays at noon. And we might have it like a very small topic, like, I don't know, parenting during meltdown. And we just kind of go and just talk about that together. So it'll be more of a support-based group. So those will be an additional option in addition to the topic-based discussion. So with that being said, we're going to jump into the slideshow. Look at that transition. I'm so proud of myself. Okay, will you give me another like emoji if you can see the slideshow? I just want to make sure that everything is still working okay. All right. So Carol services cause stress. Looking over here on the side, thinking of appropriate gifts. That is very stressful for me too. Like I like making other people feel loved and appreciated, but when you have to get everybody in your life a meaningful gift at the same time, it's so overwhelming. So overwhelming. Okay, awesome. The emojis are coming in. Let's get started, everybody. So holidays on the spectrum. My goals with this presentation today, where did my comments go? Okay. First of all, to connect with each other over the frustrations and joys of the holiday season as people on the spectrum. Our experiences are different. Also, to learn how to identify our own personal wants and needs and use this information to set healthy boundaries with ourselves and those we spend the holidays with. Thank you for the notes about the slideshow. Okay. The bottom line, and this is what I want everybody to take away from today, we do not need to sacrifice our mental health to have an enjoyable holiday season. We are deserving of enjoyable experiences. So what I think happens a lot of times is people on the spectrum, generally speaking, okay, are pretty empathetic, and we tend to prioritize other people's experiences, sometimes at the cost of our own. And so many times we try to shut down our sensory needs or downplay our sensory needs, our social needs, in order to keep up holiday traditions, in order to keep up appearances. And that comes at a cost. So I don't have to tell you this, you know this. Whenever we suppress our own needs, that leads to meltdowns, that leads to shutdowns, that leads to sensory overwhelm, anxiety, tears, right? All kinds of uncomfortable things. All right, holiday stress. Holidays can be extra stressful for autistic people due to higher levels of sensory input, right? There's more lights, there's more fattening foods that have an effect on our system. There's more noise, Christmas music, large social gatherings, all kinds of, basically just more. Holidays equals more. And more is not usually a word that we want as someone on the spectrum, unless it's more quiet, more solitude, generally speaking. Also, there seems to be less time for recovery as there are usually more commitments that you might feel like you have to participate in. So rather than, during the year when you may go meet up with your friends for a movie or something, you can take the weekend to recover. But during holiday season, there tends to always be something around the corner, not as much recovery time. Also, the social pressures can feel heightened as we try to navigate family traditions without upsetting people that we care about. This is kind of what I touched on the last slide. We're very aware of our family members and our friends' needs and feelings, and we tend to do a lot to contort ourselves, again, generally speaking, to make other people comfortable. And oftentimes we have people in our homes and personal spaces which can feel intrusive and overwhelming. So this is something I remember talking about last year on the channel, is how do we have people over in our homes? How do we create safe spaces? How do we carve out alone time when we have people in our own bubble? That can be very tricky. Okay, so here's something we can talk about over in the text box. What is one aspect of the holidays that is particularly overwhelming or stressful to you? I'm going to go with a couple here in the comments. So Luna says crowds in the stores and extended family are really stressful. In addition to crowds in the stores, something that we talked about in this community group was parking, right? So not only the crowds at the stores, but having to find a parking spot. And if y'all remember, I've talked before about transitions and how hard transitions can be for people on the spectrum. So when you finally find a parking spot and then sitting in your car and trying to transition from sitting in your car to getting out and embracing the huge, massive group of people that are inside, it's really hard. Chris says travel. Allison says political disagreements. Absolutely. And I think I actually use that as an example in some of the upcoming slides, because politics can definitely be a very stressful part of the holidays. Gemma says picking presents and Christmas food. I'm glad that you brought this up, Gemma, because one of the huge things that we talked about in our last group was food. This was like, I would say, one of the highest frustrations mentioned in the last group we did over this. Food can be so tricky over the holidays. So probably don't have to tell you that for many people on the spectrum, food allergies, intolerances, sensitivities are a real issue. And communicating that in a way that doesn't feel burdensome or overwhelming or too needy is really hard, right? And so some of us, we even have for ourselves or our kids, they have certain allergies where it might not seem like a big deal that they took one bite of an Oreo, but like that might have repercussions for a month, right? And sometimes our family members don't understand that because it might not be an immediate reaction. Maybe it's a behavioral reaction that plays out over the next month. So it's really hard accommodating yourself and or your children who have food sensitivities. This was like a huge point of frustration and stress for so many people in the group last week. Marshmallow Opossum says not being in my normal routine is stressful. Absolutely. All the loud carols and blinking lights, food aversion, home invasion. Yeah, so food aversions too can be a big one because, Aunt Sally made her fruit salad and that's, disgusting to you because of the texture, but you don't want to make her feel bad. So there might be that pressure of like trying it to make her feel better. I'm not suggesting that you do that because setting boundaries is important, and we'll get to that in a second. Barbara says extended family of huggers. That can be exhausting. Just getting in the front door, it's so overwhelming and they don't understand. Yes, isn't that like so overwhelming when you show up to an event and you have to basically go through a tunnel of hellos and hugs? That is like a recipe for overwhelm for the rest of the event, right? Because now something we've talked about in another group, we have a bucket. And if you, let's say this bucket represents our sensory overwhelm, like our sense of balance. Okay. So our bucket starts getting filled. And once it fills all the way up, that's when meltdown happens. Now, the drain at the bottom of our bucket is smaller than people who are not autistic because maybe things happen and it's upsetting to them. They can process through it faster. The upset is going to drain out faster. But for us, let's say we, by the grace of God, start a day with an empty bucket, right? We have all the room in the world for sensory overwhelm and tolerating sensory overwhelm. We start the event with a line of hugs and that bucket fills up so fast. So now you're starting the event with a halfway full bucket. And now you're going to be putting loud sounds, weird foods on top of that. It's just a recipe for getting overwhelmed very quickly. So those are all really great suggestions. Let's keep going. So here's some things that we can do to help support ourselves at events. One thing that I don't want us to underestimate is wearing comfortable clothing. I'm not setting a very good example. This is really itchy, but I know that I'm going to only be wearing it for this video. And I actually wore like a soft shirt underneath it so that the itch wouldn't be against my skin. So wearing comfortable clothing is so much more important than looking cute. Okay, again, not setting a great example right now for my YouTube video, but dressing in a way that's comfortable to you. I have comfortable pants on and comfortable socks. That can help you a lot with managing the overflow bucket. So to me, another way to think about it, it's like starting the day with an extra spoon. So if you wear comfortable clothing, it's like, if you're unfamiliar with spoon theory, here's a very brief synopsis. It's the idea that we start the day with a certain number of spoons, which represents the amount of resources that we have to give. Energy, tolerance, so if I start the day with 10 spoons, it might take half a spoon to brush my teeth because that drains me. I'm not doing a great job of explaining this right now. But if I wear comfortable clothing, it's like I get to start the day with 11 spoons. I hope that makes sense to someone. Okay, other ways to support ourselves: spend time with kids and pets. Okay, depending on the kids. Some of the kids might add stress. But if you need a break from adult conversation, go hang out in the kid room, go outside, go throw the football, go for a walk, hang out with the dog, hang out with the cat. That's a good way to kind of take a break from all the conversation and food and get some time to yourself. Step outside for some fresh air. Bring fidget toys. So something I like doing now, not just fidget toys, but something to keep your hands busy. I like bringing my crochet stuff with me everywhere I go. So that way I can still be a part of the conversation, but I don't necessarily have to be like intricately involved. I can be there, I can be doing something with my hands, and that really helps me manage my sensory overwhelm. So don't downplay the importance of fidget toys. Keep them in your purse, your backpack. That can really help regulate some of the sensory overwhelm that's happening. Yeah, Marshmallow says they didn't bring a fidget to the conference last week and it was a huge mistake. Just don't underestimate how much fidget toys and stimming can help with when you're processing sensory overwhelm. Next up is identifying safe spaces or people you feel comfortable with. So before you even go, if you know that your cousin, I'll just choose my cousin Shannon because she's awesome. I know that Shannon's always a safe person for me to be with because she doesn't ask for a lot. She's super chill to hang out with. She's not loud. So if you kind of identify in your mind like people that you can be around that are easier for your nervous system. What's a way to say that? Identify those. I know like at my parents' house, I know there's one room in particular that tends to be more quiet than the other room, and sometimes I'll go in that closet and just be by myself. So if you have a plan in advance for where you can go when you're feeling overwhelmed, that can be very helpful. Or if people are going to be in your own space, you can set the boundary of, hey, this room is off limits. We're asking that no kids go in there, no animals, no people. Last year, that's what some people said, that family members were bringing pets over to their house. That is like so much to ask. So anyways, that's a whole nother topic. Okay, next up, resting beforehand. So we just talked a little bit about spoons. This is also huge. If you know that you're going to have a really big event the next day, take it easy the day before. Don't do anything that you don't have to do, and know that if you rest in advance, that could actually really help prepare you for the big event. Chris, easier for your nervous system. Yeah, I don't even know, like, when the words are coming out of my mouth, I'm like, how do I say this in a nice way about family and friends that are overwhelming? Okay, bring a food that's comforting to you. We talked about food earlier. If you bring something that you know you can eat, even if it's just snacks in your bag that you don't have to share with everyone, if you have like a protein bar that you know always tastes good to you, keep those with you so that you can fall back on something that works for you. The next one is not a super fun point, okay, but it is important. Avoid stimulants and depressants like coffee and alcohol. I know that's total buzzkill, but honestly, they can be a buzzkill because our nervous system is already on high alert, And if we have something like coffee, that can really ramp up our nervous system and then tank it. And then alcohol can do both of those things as well. So it kind of creates this push and pull effect, which is not great for our nervous system. If that's something that you want to indulge in during the holiday season, I would suggest maybe doing that in your own home on your own time, where you can better regulate yourself. Because at a party, if you've got a lot of caffeine in your system and then you're drinking, it can be that on top of social activity. I almost can't even talk about it. That's so overwhelming. It can very easily dysregulate the nervous system. Hey, Adrienne, welcome to the party. Okay, and then we want to be aware of signs of meltdown and sensory overwhelm. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But it's very important that you start getting curious about how your body responds when you're overwhelmed, because that can give you a very good indication of when you need to take a beat and just have some time to yourself to regulate. Another huge one is leaving when you need to. It's not rude, okay? You got to take care of yourself. And for me, it's like, I'm not going to be the best version of myself if I stay past when I want to. That's when I'm going to start being more standoffish or perceived as standoffish, So it's okay to leave when you need to. And that doesn't have to be a personal, some people might take it personally, but just know that you're taking care of yourself whenever you leave when you need to, which, thank you for the compliments on my Christmas clothes. And that leads me to the last point here, to set boundaries. And we're going to talk about boundaries in just a second. Also, let me mention that you can find this slideshow. I put the link to this slideshow in the description. So if you'd like to go back on this, go back and look through this. I thought y'all would like the pictures that I chose. Then the slideshow is available to you to look at. So here's our discussion point for now. What types of unique challenges do you face during the holiday season? I heard quite a few very unique challenges in our group last week. So I want to acknowledge now that I'm saying plenty of things that I think before I've called it Disney advice. This is Disney advice, sprinkle a wand over it and it'll be better and everything will be better. I am fully aware that this advice and these suggestions in this slideshow, it's not a one size fits all. And you might have an extremely challenging, weird, unique situation where you have to just completely create all your own rules and guidelines. Trust your gut, trust your intuition. This is not a one size fits all presentation, but I hope you'll be able to take some of the points and use them to help you have a more enjoyable season. So let's talk about this discussion. What are some unique challenges that y'all have? Reading some comments over here. Disney advice. Yeah, I think that's a good word for it. It bothers me when people are just like, do this and your life will be fine. It's like, you don't know me. So I'm not trying to pretend like I know y'all. I'm just trying to share some things that have been personally helpful. Kendra, yes, this will be posted as a video later. It should be available, honestly, right after I finish the live stream. It should post as something that you're able to rewatch. I'll eventually take off the beginning of it because there's some lag time when we let everybody join in. I'm not seeing a whole lot of unique challenges in the comments. That's fine. Y'all can go ahead and when things come to you, you can keep sharing them in the text box. This is a good question. How do you support yourself during the holidays? Have you changed any traditions to better suit your needs? This would be a great area for sharing because it can encourage other people in the chat that it's possible to make changes. It's possible to change traditions and advocate for yourself. So let's brag on ourselves here. What have we done to support ourselves? What have we done to change traditions or speak up about things that weren't working for us? I will let the comments go over there for a little bit and I'll check back in so we can talk more about that. So while y'all are texting, while y'all are sharing those ways that you've supported yourself, let's talk about boundaries. All right, I'm going to read this. So during the holidays, it's especially important to set boundaries. We only have a limited amount of energy, time, and resources. Communicating our boundaries can feel scary and intimidating, but letting others know our limits is actually a kind practice. And if you think about it, people that you really care about, don't you want to know how to support them? Don't you want to understand how you can help them feel more seen and validated? anyways, I could go off on a tangent there. I'm going to keep reading. We show up more fully in situations where we feel seen and respected, and many times this motivates us to treat others with more kindness and respect as well. It's a cycle that keeps on giving. If you've communicated a boundary with someone important to you before, you may have found out that some people are very upset by boundaries. Usually, and unfortunately, this is not a judgment, it's because this person probably doesn't have many boundaries or experience with setting boundaries, and they want to take more from others' energy than they give. That might seem kind of harsh, but I think it's important to talk about these things when we learn about boundaries. One important thing to remember when setting boundaries, you are not responsible for other people's feelings. For me, internalizing this is a lifelong practice. It's not selfish to look out for yourself and your children first and foremost. Again, you will show up more fully for others when your own needs are met. All right. When I first started learning about boundaries, I was like, this is not for me. You do not understand. Like, I'm a people pleaser and there's no way I could ever do this. Boundary setting is mean and too hard and confusing. I mean, if there's anybody who thought they could not set boundaries, it was me. I am like the people pleaser of all people pleasers. I will tell you that I have made so much progress here. It is a long process. Again, like for the rest of my life, I'll be learning how to set better boundaries, but it is empowering. It's freeing. I show up more fully as myself whenever I communicate when I need to leave, what type of support I need, all kinds of things. So I just want to encourage you, if this is a new concept to you, you too can set boundaries. Yeah, I'm reading some comments over here. Okay, so Zebulon says they celebrate the original ancient holiday traditions, not the modern, way more well-known and practiced ones, and that helps them greatly. I like that suggestion. So celebrating in your own way. Trying to read some other ways that y'all have been advocating for yourself. I don't know how to say your name. Anna Logston refuses most invitations and only celebrate with people who respect my limits. Yes, very, very good. And then Marshmallow says they started going over the morning after so they could get some time alone between gatherings. That's great. Great, great, great. We've got some recovering people pleasers. Yes, I have some other resources I can share for that. I think Haley Page McGee on Instagram has some fabulous content. Also, Nedra Tawwab, I've got some of her stuff, I think, in the next slide. Let's go. Yeah. All right, so Nedra Tawwab is the boundary queen. And if you're new to setting boundaries, I would highly recommend following her. Let's see if you can see my mouse. I don't know. But here's her name at the bottom, Nedra Tawwab. And she also has a new book out. That would be a great starting point for learning about boundaries. In addition to the book that's just called Boundaries by Cloud and Townsend, which is one of the what's the word I'm looking for? Pinnacles of work on boundaries. Ooh, also plan for a 0 day after any gathering. I like the sound of that, a 0 day. Okay, boundaries with your family sound like? Prepare yourself if you're new to boundaries. Some of these are going to be like, what? I can't say that. Okay. When I come to visit, I'm staying in a hotel. I won't be attending the family gathering. I need you to stop bringing up embarrassing stories about me. I don't think they're funny. I cannot loan you any money. When I share something with you, I need you to keep it between us and not share it with other people in the family. I know your advice is well-intentioned, but I need you to listen without offering your opinion. I'm not available to answer my phone every time that you call. Okay. So how does it feel to hear some of those? Does that make anybody really nervous to think that it's appropriate to say some of these things to your family and friends? What in the world? There was a point in my life when I was like, are you kidding? I can't say any of this to the people in my life. Like, no way. But what happens? Let's say somebody crosses a boundary. How do I want to say this? Whenever you don't set a boundary for yourself, you're taking on all of the discomfort. So you think like, well, I don't want to upset the other person. So you just let them deal with the fact that they are the one inconveniencing you and putting you in a spot of discomfort. what am I trying to say here? Like, you're not being a bad person for setting a boundary. Like, the other person might be creating a situation that's uncomfortable for you. And we don't have to tolerate that. Like, even if it's well-intentioned, even if the other person has the greatest of intentions, I want you to stay here in my house and I'm going to take care of you and I want you to be here when I wake up. Even if it's really kind and nice, you're totally within your rights to say, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the offer. For me, it's best if I have my own environment and, you can say it in your own words. I'll be more myself if I'm able to do this. I'll enjoy my time with everyone more if I have a quiet place to go back to. You can say it in your own words. And I will say that setting boundaries really comes with practice, because probably at first you might communicate these in a way that sounds maybe a bit abrasive. It probably will feel abrasive to you if you're not used to setting boundaries, but over time, you get better at communicating boundaries in a way that feels more comfortable, if that makes sense. So give yourself permission and grace to not do this perfectly, because especially if you're a people pleaser who's not used to setting boundaries, it's going to take some time. Here's some other things to consider with boundaries from the wonderful Nedra Tawwab. A few reminders for people with difficult family relationships. Just a quick reminder for anybody joining us, the link to this slideshow is available in the description if you'd like to look back on it. All right, you are not alone. There's no such thing as a perfect family. You're not obligated to have relationships with unhealthy people. You do not have to like every person in your family. You cannot create healthy relationships with people who are not interested in having healthy relationships. I'm going to say that one again for me. You cannot create healthy relationships with people who are not interested in having healthy relationships. You're not betraying anyone by speaking your truth. You're honoring yourself. It's okay to be different from the other people in your family. I think we can all probably resonate with that one. And you can create family relationships with people who are not related to you. Onward. All right, how to set boundaries. Crash course by Taylor. All right, identify a need. Example, somebody brought this up earlier. I need to avoid political conversation for my mental health. All right, make it about you. What do you need? We're not going to, Aunt Sally is so frustrating and I need her to shut up, right? That's not a need. Make it about yourself. I need to avoid political conversation for my mental health. Decide what the consequence will be if and when the boundary is broken. For example, if politics are brought up, I will go into a different room or leave altogether. Catch up over here. Yeah, there's some really good conversation happening over in the comments, y'all. Y'all have a lot of good stuff to offer. Okay, so you're going to decide what the consequence will be, and then you can either communicate that need in advance, or you can be prepared to set the boundary if it comes up. Okay, so if you're going to communicate this need in advance, one example could be, again, in your own words, but thanks for inviting me. Last time our conversation got a little heated around politics. I'd really like to focus on our family today. If things start drifting towards politics, I will likely move to a different room. If you were to bring this up during the event, let's say something comes up, you can say at the table or whatever, talking about this makes me feel uncomfortable. Could we please change the subject? If not, I'm probably going to head out early. Again, these things they might feel really rude to say if you're not used to saying them, but I would encourage you to take a look at these statements objectively. You're not saying anything mean. Like, you're really not. You're just communicating like you want to be fully present in the conversation and you can't be because something is really upsetting to you. So think about, a person that you really care about. I would want to know this information about somebody that I really care about. I would want them to feel comfortable in the conversation with me. I'm going to mention again here that this is Disney advice, okay? Normally boundary setting, it doesn't go perfectly. You don't say everything eloquently like I had time to write it out here, when I was not bothered by anyone and had alone time to write this. Your boundary setting is going to be messy. You're going to say things that you wish you didn't say. You're going to word things in an awkward way, especially at first, and that's okay. Part of boundary setting has to be lots of grace and compassion, and even the ability to come back later. You could say, I definitely don't want you to get the idea that you need to apologize for setting boundaries, but if you communicate something that you feel like was too harshly said, or you wish you would have said something different, you're always able to come back later and say, hey, whenever I said that earlier, like, I wish I would have said it this way, right? So you don't ever have to apologize for setting a boundary, but just know, I hope you know what I'm trying to say is that there's grace and compassion, and it's a messy process that will get better over time. You can always come back later and address things that didn't go the way that you wanted them to go. And then lastly here, reinforce the boundary. So if somebody really is not honoring your boundaries, I learned this from my psychologist, it's called the broken record statement. Keep repeating the same thing if your boundaries are not honored. It gets really boring for the other person and annoying, okay? If we continue talking about politics, I'll need to leave. All right, Aunt Sally's still talking about politics. Aunt Sally, if we keep talking about politics, I will need to leave. Aunt Sally, if we continue talking about this, I'm leaving. So that starts getting annoying. And again, take a look at it objectively. You're not saying anything mean. You're really not. You're setting a boundary for yourself, and the other person is the one actually being disrespectful. It's really not you. So you're not going to have to use broken record statements for everybody. I would say this is more for like bigger boundary breaches, and you'll just trust your gut when you need to use this statement. But also with that, you need to follow through on the consequence if your boundaries are continually neglected. And you'll determine when that is. Like, maybe it's a one strike and you leave. Maybe it was a huge breach and you need to leave. That's fine. Maybe it's 3 strikes and you're out. But if you don't follow through on the consequence, it will set the tone that that you're a pushover, right? It will set the tone that people can breach your boundaries and that you'll stay. So following through is harder than anything, okay? Especially for recovering people pleaser, following through is one of the hardest things that you'll do, especially if it's with people that you love and care about. But you have to teach people how to treat you. And if you want to be respected, respect yourself, respect your boundaries. It doesn't get much simpler than that. It's simple, but not easy. Simple, but not easy. Okay, so if you would, boundary setting might be so new to us that we don't have a lot of examples, but share an example of a boundary you have set or would like to set this holiday season. So what is something, ideally, if you could set any boundary, which boundary would you set this holiday season? Change Shifter says, finally learning about boundaries is life-changing. My parents have none and do not respect my sons and my healthy boundaries. We have 2 scheduled phone calls a week now and don't visit much. Hey, those are some great changes that you've implemented. I mean, hopefully those have been positive for you and that you've kind of managed your own expectations of what to expect with those relationships. That's really hard, but it does get easier over time. Zebulon says they celebrate their own version of Thanksgiving without turkey. Cool. Good boundary. Oh man. So Stephanie's biggest difficulty has been that like the smell of her mom's apartment is really overwhelming to her. That's one of those things, like Disney magic doesn't fix that, right? Like that's a really complicated situation because it's like, how do you deal with that? Because you don't want to hurt feelings. That sounds really complicated. It's a good example of a messy one. Oh, Kendra says their parents were recently divorced and they've set boundaries with them about talking to her about each other. Great job. That can be hard to do. I would guess that's one that will have to be continually reinforced. Oh, that's great. Britt says that they don't come to any... Oh, the comment went away. They don't go to any events that take place in the evening. It messes up their routine so much. That's great. Ooh, Whitney, I love yours. Not making your son sit still at the table or eat the food. He's autistic, non-speaking with ADHD. That's amazing because there's so many different things that family members can do, especially to kids who are differently functioning. Like, hey, why are you sad? Like, come on, laugh a little or whatever. It's like just standing up for your kids and advocating, like, give them space, right? They don't need any help doing what they're doing right now. Give them space. Yeah, they don't need to sit at the table right now. They have their own thing. That's awesome. I always love it when I hear parents advocating for their kiddos. All right, let's keep going here. This is the point when I realized, oh my gosh, I always put so much information in my slideshows. So we'll kind of briefly cover this, and I'm going to take a second to take a drink of water because I always talk really fast. Thank y'all for sharing your experiences in the comments. It's very helpful. Okay. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. One thing that can be really helpful and one way that we can advocate for ourselves is identifying signs of impending meltdowns and or sensory overwhelm. They're kind of synonymous. During the holidays, it's important to become aware of when you're needing space and or recovery time, and to take that time as soon as possible to prevent a shutdown. Some signs of impending meltdown could be elevated pulse, itchy skin, general feeling of discomfort, irritability or emotional outburst, shortness of breath. This is going to be different for everybody. These are some of my tells whenever I know that I'm not doing okay. I'd love to hear in the comments what are some signs of your impending meltdowns. This self-awareness of what's happening before, during, and after a meltdown, it's a learned practice over time. So if you're new to paying attention to your body's cues, you might be sitting there thinking, I have no idea because I don't know I'm in a meltdown until I'm having an outburst or until I'm crying. So I just want to encourage you that there probably are subtle signs, if not overt signs, leading up to the pinnacle of your meltdown. And with practice, you can become more familiar with them, more aware of them, to help you plan for how to take care of yourself or how to remove yourself from a situation, so that maybe you don't have quite as big of a reaction or quite as big of a meltdown, if that makes sense. Elise says that they get the prickly eye feeling like they're going to cry. Lisa says tense shoulders and neck pain in the eyes. That's interesting. You both said stuff with the eyes. Bye, Mikey boy. Oh, Allison says they know they're coming to a meltdown when they start pacing. That's a really good one. We're getting a lot of feedback here. Okay. Kendra's voice gets quieter and they only want to talk to their partner. These are all great. Feeling annoyed by everyone. That's a really common one. Like when all of a sudden, especially as a mom, when I just get like so impatient, that's when I realize, okay, I haven't paid attention to myself in a long time. Like I need to take a second and figure out why I feel so freaking impatient. That's a really good one. Annoyed with everyone. Whitney says her hands sweat and her heart starts racing. Ooh, chain shifter, that's a good one. First clue is losing the ability to follow one conversation out of several going on. Blue stocking, Jules says finger stems. Oh, I do that all the time. Averting my face and wanting to disappear. You know what, now that you say that, this is why I love these comments, because it helps bring up things I didn't notice. Like a lot of times when I don't want to be seen, that's a really good indication that something else is going on, that I don't really want to make eye contact or be seen. Mutism, that's great whenever your communication goes away. You're not able to communicate. Picking your lips, I do that too. I won't do it now because that's annoying to look at, but I did it before I started this because I was a little nervous. These are all really, really great suggestions. So what I want us to do with these, remember the ones that we're relating to, and the next time we start getting sensory overwhelm and kind of heading towards a meltdown, let me pause here. Maybe this is after your next meltdown if you're new to this self-awareness process. After your next meltdown, when you've recovered, see if you can look back and reflect on what happened. When did you first start noticing signs? Even writing them down can be really helpful so that you're more aware of it next time. If you're able to self-identify in the moment, that would be a great time to excuse yourself from the table, go outside, go play with the pets, go for a walk. So anytime you start noticing these elevated pulses, like feeling of irritability, take that as a sign that, hey, if I don't do something right now, I'm going to enter into a meltdown and I'm going to have to leave. Oh, hey, we made it to the end. Okay, so much great conversation on the side. So if you're interested in learning more about navigating meltdowns and understanding why our body does that and how to prevent, not that we can prevent them, but how to better manage them, check out my Meltdown Survival Guide. This link will be in the description as well. So if you open the slideshow, you can click on the link from this slideshow, or there's like a separate link in the description. And I don't remember how many pages it's at now, but it's a long guide that can help you better understand meltdowns, especially if you're kind of new to the idea of them. And then this is a free resource that I offer. Is donation based, but you can download it for $0 if that's what fits your financial situation. I'm very proud of this. I'm about to put out an updated version of it. So the Big Autistic Resource Guide, or the BARG, is a great way to discover autistic businesses, products, social media accounts. There's so many social media accounts, service providers, medical professionals, people who do adult autism diagnoses. You can also have your business featured for free if you're a neurodivergent person. So the link to download is here. It's also in the description. And then some next steps for you. If this was first of all, if this was helpful to you, if you could give the video a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate that, because it helps it show up in other places. If you'd like to book a one-on-one session with me, again, all of these links are going to be in the description. But I have a lot of availability, taking the rest of this week off, but the week after Thanksgiving, I have a lot of availability for one-on-one sessions. And I've also got some upcoming community groups. So the next one with Space, I believe, is Wednesday, November 30th, and the topic is autism in the workplace. So we're going to be talking about how to disclose your diagnosis, what that can offer you, like accommodations, all different types of things. I've got a slideshow on that one that I'll be sharing. And then Friday, December 2nd at 9 a.m. Central is over masking. So masking is the process of, it's kind of copy and paste behaviors a little bit, where we kind of take on other people's characteristics or mask over how we really want to respond to a situation in order to appear more socially acceptable. So we're going to talk about the effects of masking, why we do it. We're going to be able to connect with other people about our own unique experiences of that as someone on the spectrum. And lastly, I'm so glad to hear that the WhatsApp group is going really well, y'all. So thank you for bringing that up too. So part of the community groups, let's say you join an autistic community group, after the group is over, I send you a link to a WhatsApp group. And if you're unfamiliar with WhatsApp is a free app. It basically allows you to be in a huge group chat with everybody in your session who wants to join. So we always uncover lots of information in our group sessions that we don't have, we could talk for hours. So at the close of the session, I send everybody a link, and then you can join a WhatsApp group that can go on for as long as you want it to. And it's just a safe place for y'all to reconnect with each other and to keep talking about things that come up related to that topic and beyond. Zebulon, the way that you access the WhatsApp group, I give you a link after you participate in one of the community groups. So there is one big WhatsApp group of like a lot of people, but the way I start out with doing it is I just send you a link that's specific to the community group that you're in. So we kind of foster relationships in that small group, and then I give you a link so that that small group can continue connecting outside of the community group. This is a list of some of the resources I used for creating this slideshow. Don't forget to check out Nedra Tawwab, the Boundary Queen. This is her new book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace. And then lastly, the Boundaries book by Cloud and Townsend. It's great. It's like the Boundaries Bible. So all that said, are there any questions anybody has for me? Let's see how we're doing on time. It'll take about a couple minutes if anybody has any questions or anything they want to share. I'm so glad that the big group is awesome on the WhatsApp group. There's a lot more community groups too, other than what I have here. What else do we have? Masking, meltdowns, autistic inertia and demand avoidance, autism in the workplace. There's a parent support group, and lots more coming in 2023. I've received a lot of really great feedback. So if there's any topics that you want to see covered, I do my best to design the community groups to be solely in response to what the community is wanting. So any specific suggestions you have, I'm happy to hear them. BC, I think maybe you're talking about Orion Kelly, fired for being autistic, his video. Orion has a lot of really, really great resources. Yep, Blue Stocking, you're on it. Zebulon, just because you have the app, it doesn't mean you can automatically access it. I'm trying to remember if I've seen your name in a community group. I'm sorry, I'm not great with connecting those two sides of my brain in a social setting. You'll only have the link access to the WhatsApp group if you participate in a community group outside of this setting. So you can check out, all right, bye Whitney, I'm so glad you're here. You can check out more community groups at momonthespectrum.live/coaching, which I've put in the chat. So you can sign up for there. And then at the close of the session, you get the link to the WhatsApp group. Allison, you never got your slideshow email for relationships. Check your spam folder, Allison. And if it still didn't come through, if you'll email me, info@momonthespectrum.life, I'll make sure that you get the dating slideshow. I always send the slideshows too after the community group meets. Blue Unicorn, you're getting your test results on Wednesday. Oh my gosh, I remember that feeling. It's like so unnerving. I'm sending you good vibes. Good vibes. Julia, I'm reading your comment about your eyes tending to hurt a lot. That's really interesting that that's come up several times in this group. I'm really curious about that. Okay, Sonia says, have you done any community groups about parenting, staying sane as an autistic parent, and advocating for autistic kids? Yeah, we've done, I think, one group over parenting so far. But what I want to do, and I've got one more on the books. I've got one more scheduled before the end of the year. What I want to do next year is have like, here's our parenting group, and we meet on Saturdays. This is just an example, at 9 a.m. And it's kind of a support group. So we would start with the question of how do we advocate for our kids? And we kind of connect over what those experiences have been like for us and share resources and that kind of thing. So that's coming up next year. Yeah, Sue-Ann, we're closing up, but I'm so glad you're here. The replay should be available immediately after we close up here. Yeah. Y'all are so welcome. I appreciate everybody being here. So I think we'll close up for today. Like I said, this replay will be available. If you look in the description, the slideshow is a link that you can click on and view the slideshow. All these links should be clickable. So if you're interested in any of the resources or more information, you can click on the links in the slideshow. Again, if this video was helpful to you, if you had fun, if you learned something, if you could give it a thumbs up, that would be awesome. I really appreciate that. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be sharing a couple of my favorite things here in the next week or so that would make really great Christmas presents for neurodivergent people. So that's what I've got coming up. But y'all make my heart so happy and so full, and I appreciate y'all sharing your experiences in the text chat. And how does this work, y'all? This is why I love the autistic community. This has been, I think y'all would agree with me, I haven't been able to see all the comments, like a wildly positive text chat. Supportive, right? I love this community. It's, I don't want to say crazy, it's wild on YouTube that there's this positive community here where y'all support and listen and encourage each other. I love it. I can't talk about it too much because I just love it. I love it. I love it. So thank y'all. Thank y'all for being supportive and kind. It goes so far, especially all the things that we're living through at the moment. So thank y'all so much. Y'all know it's so hard for me to say bye. I'm just going to stay on here and talk. So I love you all. Your experiences matter. You're beautiful people. And I will talk to you in the next video or in the next community group or in a one-on-one. Okay. Sending so much love.